giant robots on a customizable battlefield, lasers, missiles, and I get to be in charge. Yeah, sign me up. We're talking Mecha Bardagulan V4 today, and we are diving deep into the rulebook.
I am so ready to see what makes these metal titans tick.
Now, before we get too far, I know what some of you might be thinking out there. Giant robots, okay, cool, but is this game even going to be for me?
Which is a great question. That's what we're here to find out together today. So let's break it down. What are we even talking about here?
Okay, so Mecha Bardagulan, it's what we call a tabletop miniature game.
Which basically just means instead of clicking on a screen, you're moving like actual miniatures around on a physical board, right?
In this game, it's all about tactical combat, but between giant robots, we call them mechs.
Okay, so far so good. So we each have these mechs, but we're not just like lining them up and rolling some dice, seeing whose hits harder, are we?
Oh, no, definitely not. There's way more to it than that. You're not just like picking a mech and hoping for the best. You're controlling a whole squad of these guys.
Each with their own strengths, weaknesses, some even have special abilities.
And it's all laid out in what we call data sheets. Like, imagine their character profile.
Oh, I like where this is going. So I can already see myself now hunkering down, poring over these data sheets, trying to find the perfect mechs to form like the ultimate robot team.
Okay, so this one's got like a massive cannon, but it's slow, so I'm going to need something fast to cover its flanks.
Yeah.
See? Strategy.
Okay, but let's back up for a second. For those of us who are like totally new to this whole tabletop gaming scene, what's a typical Mecha Bardagulan game actually like? What's the objective here?
So picture this. You've got your battlefield laid out on a table, but it's not just any old flat surface.
Yeah, this is where it gets cool. You've got hills, buildings, maybe even craters. Obstacles that actually make a difference in the fight.
And your goal, take down your opponent's mechs. Outmaneuver them, outsmart them, outgun them, whatever it takes.
Okay, so we've got the robot gladiatorial arena set up, but you said something earlier about Mecha Bardagulan being flexible. What does that even mean?
Oh, yeah. That's one of the things that makes this game so great, honestly. You've got options,
Yeah.
depending on what kind of game you and your opponent are looking for.
You'd switch things up. If you're just in the mood for a good old-fashioned brawl, you go with annihilation mode. Straightforward, right? Destroy everything the enemy's got. No fancy business.
All right, so annihilation mode sounds like my kind of party. But you mentioned something else, something a little more strategic.
Oh, yeah. If you're more into, like, the chess match of it all, domination mode is where it's at.
Domination, okay. Tell me more. What makes it so different?
It's not just about smashing robots together anymore. Domination, it's all about control, you know?
You've got to capture and hold specific areas on the battlefield.
So it's like King of the Hill, but with giant robots.
Exactly.
I'm all about that. Okay, so annihilation is for players who just want to see sparks fly, metal clash, maximum carnage.
But domination, that's for the players who want to be a little more strategic, a little more, I've got a plan and I'm going to outsmart you on the battlefield.
I like the way you think.
Already, this game has way more depth than I expected. And we haven't even gotten to the optional rules yet. Wait, optional rules, tell me more.
Oh yeah, this is where Mecha Bardagulan V4 gets really interesting. So you've got these optional rules that let you really fine-tune the experience.
So like, let's say you want to crank things up a notch. Add a little more oomph to those critical hits.
Oh, spicy. I like it. So it's like instead of just getting a little bit bonus, those lucky rolls become absolutely devastating. Potentially game-changing moments right there.
I love it. This means you and your opponent can literally decide how you want to play, right? Like, are we going all-out brawl, maximum damage? Or are we doing a more tactical engagement where positioning and strategy are key? It's like customizing your own mech battle royale.
Precisely. And you know what that also means?
Even more strategy before the first robot even moves.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
You're sitting down with your opponent, you're hashing it out. Okay, are we going all in on damage? Maybe we emphasize certain weapon types. It all factors into how you build your squad and how you approach the battle.
So even before the first shot is fired, the wheels are already turning. It's like a game of chess, but with giant robots.
I like the way you think. And speaking of strategy, remember all that terrain we were talking about earlier?
You mean like the hills and the buildings?
Right.
Those aren't just for show?
Absolutely not. Those are your tools, my friend. Think about it. You've got a mech hunkered down behind a collapsed wall. That's cover.
Yeah, that could be the difference between dodging a laser blast or getting blown to scrap metal. Or maybe you've got a mech perched up high on a building. That's prime real estate.
Gives you a clear line of sight, perfect for picking off enemy mechs.
So it's not just about who has the bigger, badder-looking mech. It's about knowing how to use the environment to your advantage.
You can outsmart your opponent, outmaneuver them, maybe even lead them straight into a carefully planned trap, right?
Oh, yeah. It's all about playing the field, knowing the strengths of your mechs, and exploiting every tactical advantage you can get.
And that's what makes it exciting.
Exactly. Mecha Bardagulan. It's a game of constant back and forth. You're maneuvering your mechs, trying to anticipate your opponent's next move. Always got to be one step ahead.
All right, you've definitely sold me on the whole chess match with giant robots angle, but I gotta admit, part of me is also here for the giant robot action.
So let's break it down. What does an actual turn look like in this game?
What can I even do with my mechs once I'm in the thick of battle?
Okay, so we start with the command phase. Beginning of each turn, every mech gets a certain number of these things called command points.
Command points. Okay, I'm listening. What do these do?
Think of them like currency, or like your fuel for all those awesome actions you want to pull off.
So what can I spend these precious command points on? Give me the rundown.
Well, that's the cool part. You can use them for just about anything. Need a little more oomph in your attack?
Boom! Spend some command points, make those lasers hit harder and more accurately, or maybe you need to get out of a tight spot. Zoom. Command points. Enhance your movement. Outrun those incoming missiles.
And then you've got those special abilities we were talking about.
Right. The ones unique to each mech.
Exactly. Some of those bad boys, you got to spend command points to activate them.
Okay, the tension is building already. So each turn, I've got to decide, am I going all in on offense, spending my points and making sure those attacks hit hard? Or maybe I play it safe, save them up for a crucial defensive maneuver later on.
Exactly. It's all about resource management, baby.
Each choice could mean the difference between a glorious victory and getting turned into scrap metal.
No pressure. And all of those decisions, they come into play even more in the next phase, the battle phase.
Okay, now we're talking. This is where the real action happens, the moment of truth. What goes down during the battle phase?
This is where players go head-to-head, activating their mechs one by one. You move your units into position, line up your shots, and let loose with all those awesome weapons.
So it's this back and forth, this constant dance of I'm going to outmaneuver you, I'm going to outsmart you. Always got to be thinking a few steps ahead.
That's the heart of it right there.
I love that. It sounds so dynamic. One well-timed action, one clever maneuver. That's all it takes to turn the tide of battle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing.
It's not as simple as just pointing your mech in the enemy's general direction and blasting away.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a little something called facing and arcs of attack.
Hold on, now you're speaking my language. Facing and arcs of attack. Break that down for me.
Okay, so your mechs, right, they're not just like stationary turrets. Yeah.
They've got a front, a back, sides, like any self-respecting giant robot should.
Yeah.
And they can only attack within a certain arc in front of them. Makes sense, right?
So I can't just like turn my mech's head around like an owl and fire away. I've got to actually maneuver them, make sure the enemy's in my line of sight and in range of my weapons.
You got it. It's all about flanking maneuvers, pincer movements, catching your opponent off guard. Positioning is everything.
Because if you leave yourself exposed, your opponent, they're going to make you pay for it. And trust me, backstab bonus damage is brutal.
So it's a delicate dance then. You've got to balance offense and defense, always be aware of your surroundings, and never, ever underestimate the power of a well-timed flank attack.
You're getting it.
Okay, you've officially blown my mind with this whole facing and arcs of attack thing. That's amazing. So we've got the basic gameplay loop down. We know about the different modes, the terrain, the importance of positioning. But I have a feeling we've only scratched the surface here, haven't we?
Oh, we're just getting started. We haven't even touched on the mech's unique abilities, the crazy weapons you have at your disposal.
Or those game-changing maneuvers that can really turn the tide of battle.
Okay, I'm officially hooked. We've got these giant robots on this dynamic battlefield. But what I really want to hear about are those unique abilities and crazy weapons.
Give me all the tactical details.
Okay, so remember those data sheets we were talking about?
The ones that give each mech its own personality, its own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Well, that's where you'll find their unique skills, listed as other skills.
Other skills. Okay, so these aren't your run-of-the-mill attacks then?
These are game changers.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Give me an example. Like, what kind of crazy maneuvers can these other skills pull off?
Okay, picture this. Your opponent's got you cornered, thinks they've got you dead to rights.
Uh-oh. This is it.
Right. Then, bam, you activate your mech's step skill, quick tactical repositioning, totally throws them off, and boom, you're back in the game.
Okay, that's pretty slick, so you can use them defensively to escape a bad situation. What else you got?
Oh, we're just getting started. Imagine this. You're facing down this, like, heavily armored opponent, right? Like a walking tank.
Okay, yeah, those are tough.
You could try to punch through that armor, spend turns whittling them down.
Or you could use the assess skill. Roll the dice. Luck's on your side.
Your next attack ignores their armor completely. Next thing you know, you've taken out their most powerful weapon.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. These other skills, they're not just about brute force. They add a whole layer of mind games to the battle. It's like psychological warfare, but with giant robots.
Exactly. It's all about outsmarting your opponent. And if you really want to get inside their head, make them sweat a little.
Tell me more.
Concentrate and aim assist are where it's at. Concentrate. It's like your mech takes a moment, gets in the zone, then bam!
Unleashes a devastating attack.
And
Aim assist.
you're basically locking onto your opponent, making those evasive maneuvers practically useless. They'll be dodging imaginary lasers for the rest of the game.
Okay, that is just diabolical. I love it. So we've got these other skills unique to each mech. But you also mentioned other actions. What's the difference?
Glad you asked. Other actions. They're like those tactical maneuvers that anyone can pull off no matter what mech you're rocking. Adds a whole other layer of strategy, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Give me the lowdown. What kind of tactical maneuvers are we talking here?
All right, say your opponents clustered their mechs together, think they're all safe and sound behind that cover.
Bold move.
That's the perfect time to bust out the throw grenade action. Boom! Suddenly their formation's blown, they're scrambling for cover, and you're already lining up your next move.
Beautiful. It's classic battlefield chaos, but on a giant robot scale.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about defense? What if I'm the one on the receiving end of that surprise grenade attack?
Well, a good Mecha Bardagulan commander always has a backup plan, and that's where those defensive other actions come in.
Okay, so we've got our offensive maneuvers, like trucking grenades to throw the enemy into disarray. Love it. But what about protecting my own mechs when things get hairy?
Because with all these tactical options, and trust me, you've sold me on that, I have a feeling things are going to get really, really hairy out there on that battlefield.
You're not wrong about that. Mecha Bardagulan, it's all about those moments, those back and forths, where you've got to adapt, think on your feet. Sometimes the best defense.
It's a well-timed counter.
Okay, hit me with it. What kind of countermeasures are we talking?
Let's say your opponent's got you in their sights, they're about to take out your best mech, your pride and joy.
Ouch, my metal heart.
And then, bam, you activate emergency reactive armor.
Ooh, what's that do?
Think of it like emergency energy shields, deflecting those incoming attacks, and suddenly, their master plan.
Out the window. Talk about a game changer.
Huh. I can only imagine the look on their face.
Oh, yeah, you know it's going to be good. But there are also some, more subtle ways to play defense.
Oh, subtlety in a game of giant robots. Tell me more.
Remember plant mine we were talking about before?
Dead a trap for your opponent. Right. Classic.
Right. But what if you're the one stumbling into a minefield, huh?
Uh-oh. I'd want to be able to, defuse the situation, literally.
That's where minesweeping comes in.
Carefully clearing a path through that minefield.
Outsmarting your opponent. And maybe, just maybe, saving your mech from going up in flames.
It's a minefield out there, in the best way possible. Okay, I'm convinced. Every decision matters. Every action has a counter. This game is, like, a constant mental chess match with lasers and missiles.
Now you're getting it.
Okay, is there anything else hiding in this rule book that we haven't uncovered yet? We've got terrain, we've got mech abilities, we've got all these tactical actions. There's gotta be more.
Well, remember how we were saying that each mech has its own unique flavor thanks to those data sheets?
Yeah, those character profiles, chock full of stats and abilities.
Well, it turns out those data sheets, they're hiding even more strategic goodies.
Okay, you've officially piqued my curiosity.
We haven't even talked about support weapons yet.
Oh, right, the little guys. I'd almost forgotten about those. Those are like the mini-mech squads that can roll with certain mechs, right? Adding extra firepower or unique tactical options. How do they work exactly? Do they have a mind of their own or?
It's not quite like having a whole army of mini-mechs running around. They're more like extensions of the main mech,
Think of them as extra tools, specialized equipment, so generally they stick close to the big guy. If your main mech is flying, those support weapons are soaring right alongside.
Okay, that makes sense. So they're not totally independent then.
Exactly. Using those support weapons effectively, that's a whole other layer of strategy you got to think about on your turn. When do you deploy them?
Do you use them defensively to keep your main mech safe? Or Do you go on the offensive, really press the attack?
Another layer of strategy. I love it. It's like you're conducting this intricate dance with all these moving parts. This has been an amazing deep dive, truly an eye-opener. I'm already strategizing my own robot army builds. But even beyond the rules and all the tactical possibilities, it sounds like there's a whole community out there ready to welcome newcomers to the world of Mecha Bardagulan.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this game, it attracts a certain kind of person, people who love strategy, who love getting those creative juices flowing.
And of course, people who love giant robots.
I mean, who doesn't love giant robots, am I right?
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, what would you say to those listening who are like, this sounds amazing, I need this in my life,
Yeah.
but I have no idea where to even begin?
Jump right in. Honestly, there's a ton of resources online. Forums, groups, you name it. And the people there, they're amazing. They're sharing strategies, they're showing off their painted mechs.
Even creating their own custom scenarios and campaigns.
Wow, it sounds like an amazing community to be a part of. So we've got the rule book, we've got the strategies, we've got this awesome community. What's the biggest takeaway for our listeners today?
At the end of the day, Mecha Bardagulan, it's about having fun, getting lost in this world you're creating, giant robots clashing on a customizable battlefield. What's not to love?
It's about those moments, those aha moments when your plan comes together, the thrill of a risky move paying off big time.
Exactly.
So, to our listeners, I say, embrace the chaos, master those tactics, and go write your own legendary stories on the battlefields of Mecha Bardagulan.
And who knows, maybe we'll see you out there on the virtual front line someday.
Until next time, may your dice rolls be ever in your favor, and may your mechs be ever victorious.